My bias most certainly is to always do the right things for the right reasons, and that is focusing on making sure that we build a sustainable, healthy business that can last over the long run. And that sometimes requires decisions that sacrifice short-term wins or gains for the benefit of longer-term sustained health.
Hi, I'm Jason Harris, and you're listening to Soul and Science. Fast forward your marketing mind in about 20 minutes. Welcome to the podcast. Heidi Andersen is a corporate athlete with 2 decades of business leadership. She is Nextdoor's CMO and CRO, where she oversees the global revenue team, revenue streams, and marketing. Prior to Heidi joining Nextdoor, she served as LinkedIn's Vice President of Global Sales, where she built the cloud online sales organization under LinkedIn's Marketing Solutions division. She founded the business unit and grew it to over $1 billion. Before LinkedIn, Heidi worked in Google's AdWords sales group and helped build Google's display ad business to over $5 billion. Heidi grew up in Denmark, has lived in Silicon Valley for 20 years, and now resides in Colorado with her family. She is passionate about building and transforming purpose-driven businesses to reach their potential. Heidi strives to empower and inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more. All right. Welcome to the podcast, Heidi. What is your origin story, marketing and sales? Like, was that kind of your path thinking about your career, or did you start in a sort of different area and then come to where you are?
I did not imagine sales being part of my career choices ever, marketing potentially. I studied international business and had marketing subjects added to, my specialties, along with finance, statistics, macroeconomics. One of those typical people who like to add on a bunch of different disciplines into the mix of things. I knew I wanted to work in a job that allowed me to experience the world and work with people from different backgrounds and culture and solve really big problems. But I did not know when I was in my 20s exactly what I was going to do. And I'm going to date myself a little bit too. I mean, the internet just came around when I was in college. So, the ability to imagine what our jobs look like at this point, it's a little bit of a stretch, I would say, to foresee what would be coming at us. But over the years, as technology has continued to become a big part of our world and our daily lives, I've just embraced the opportunity to pursue paths where I could get really close to centers of excellence, innovation, and finding ways to connect with people, creating value. And that just so happened to come about through, at first, Google. I decided to join their sales organization, partially due to a wonderful piece of advice a friend gave me, which was, hey, Heidi, when you start your career in a new country, which I was doing, one, pick a company where you can build a really strong network. So you have a lot of people to learn from, and you can they can help support you. And two, get as close to the voice of customer as you possibly can, because that's going to be an invaluable, ability for you to drive influence and impact, wherever you go going forward, once you've gotten really close to that center, and tie yourself as close to a P&L as you can. So that started my journey in sales. And then I quickly learned that the way I had perceived sales isn't necessarily what sales is like. I was thinking the used car salesman type of, scenario when I thought of sales. But what I learned at Google is it's really about helping, and in that case, like businesses finding value, helping businesses grow, connect them with opportunity, connect them with people, the best customers. And it allows you to think through both small opportunity and problems, as well as finding ways to do that at massive scale. And that sort of notion of like solving big problems for the benefit of positive impact at very large scale really resonated with me and helped inform my choices ongoing.
What do you think makes you, a skill that you have that you're like, yeah, this is kind of my zone. I'm in my flow state when I'm working on this particular type of problem?
Yeah, it's a bit of a blend of a couple of different traits. I feel fortunate in many ways. I'm born with a lot of optimism. Like I see opportunity, where some others might see a challenge and seeing it difficult to find a way forward, um, I see a bunch of different doors, and I really focus on trying to ensure there are as many doors open as possible to finding pathways to doing something bigger or better. I think I'm pretty good at assembling great teams, and empowering great teams to do exceptional work. And I would say that the last piece coming into it is born with a great dose of grit. So if there's a way to make something happen, like I'll keep working at it until I accomplish.
How did you frame the last one?
Grit.
Grit. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like just you're tenacious.
I mean, in my personal life, I have run ultra marathons,
Oh wow.
marathons, done long distance cycling. For better or worse, I like the big challenges and working through them, and obviously love the sense of accomplishment when you do something that not a lot of other people can do.
I love that, and I share that bug in that I always have to have a challenge that I'm doing, like beyond the job thing. Like I have to find a challenge or I get really restless. The problem I find with that though is it's hard to be content, being happy where you are and not needing that other challenge. I'm trying to also learn how to do that, but I'm not very good at it.
I have a little bit of the same. I try to remind myself when I achieve something to just take a moment and pause and reflect on that accomplishment. Just a pat on the back, if you will, paying gratitude to myself, like in that very moment where I achieve it. But I am very quick to move forward, like you described as well. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Um, as long as you sort of keep yourself in check and it doesn't come at a cost that is, uh, you know, outweighing other important things in life.
Yeah, I think that's true. Anyway, we'll move on here. For people that aren't familiar with Nextdoor, what would your elevator pitch be for what Nextdoor is?
Nextdoor is the neighborhood app that helps neighbors thrive. Neighbors include people like you and me living in our local communities. It's also businesses. And we connect neighbors to businesses, business to neighbors, helping them find the information they're looking for, finding the businesses and products they're looking for, and really help build communities that are thriving.
Was there anything in particular that, like, obviously it's a novel idea and there's not anything exactly like it. There might be some things that are similar, but not the same. What do you think made it gain in popularity?
Coming out of a period of time where COVID was sort of going through the world around us, I think a lot of neighbors really realized the power of community and the importance of your local community and being connected to the people that live close to you. Many relying on help from the local community,
Yeah.
whether it was help with groceries or help with something else that had to get done with their home, or help with finding a way to take care of childcare, etc. Like it was really difficult, finding ways to make everything work at that time if you had a lot of different things to balance in life. So this is where I think the local community really came through in a lot of ways for a lot of people, and that manifested itself in ongoing growth.
And you're the chief marketing and revenue officer. Do you find that it could just be called CMO should also be responsible for revenue? Or, sometimes there's a chief growth officer or a separate CRO. How do you think about that role combination? What do you think makes it different than maybe if you were just in a CMO role?
It's a good question. I actually often get asked, should the title be CBO or CGO or some other variation with C in front of it? Um, I'm a little bit over a month into this combined role, so it's relatively new still. Although having said that, when I was wearing the CRO hat only, so to speak, B2B marketing was always part of my remit. So that in itself is not entirely new. Now having the broader marketing organization and revenue organization combined, I'm certainly already seeing some incredible synergies between the two organizations. Having the two titles versus the CMO in isolation, obviously it means that my job is more complex. because I have to balance the both near-term and longer-term revenue goals. In this case, I think the some of the benefits I have with having the combined role is I have a direct access to hearing from customers, and I get to interact a lot with customers directly. I really feel that is a great benefit because I get to hear again, like firsthand, how we're resonating in the marketplace, how where we can drive more value, and wearing the CRO hat, so to speak. Any advertiser or small business that we're talking to, they're also a neighbor. So you get a pretty good holistic read when you sit down and you actually interact with them and learn about like how they perceive the platform, what's useful and what's not. And I can use that feedback both for my teams and directly what I'm getting and take that back into thinking through both the creative side of things with a marketing perspective, but also how to work that in a more integrated way with a revenue organization. And the integration is an area where we continuing to identify just opportunities for the different functions to come together. We recently had our team offsite, and it was just really remarkable how many areas we identified where the leadership teams from across revenue and marketing felt like if they put their heads together more often, we could probably drive like greater outcomes.
Yeah, because I think of when we think of building iconic brands in what we do, it is really the brand building, which is the longer term brand affinity, right? And then there's the short term kind of always on need for business growth, like day-to-day business growth has to happen. You have to straddle those two worlds and keep both of them in mind because they're both important. If you just focused on business growth and you neglect the power of the brand, that's not a long-term strategy. And if you over-index on just the power of the brand, that's going to take too long for you to get to the growth supercharge that you need, right? So in a way, it kind of almost seems like most companies should operate in that way, assuming you have a good leadership team around you, because it's a lot to take on.
It's a lot to take on. And I think exactly what you just said is really the key word. Like the bench beneath you has to be exceptionally strong.
What drew you to Nextdoor? Because you had worked at, much larger organizations before. Was there something about the company that, in your gut, you're like, yeah, this feels like the right thing?
It was a couple of different reasons. There was a personal connection. When I first connected with Sarah Fryer, our CEO, mm-hmm. I thought to myself, when this opportunity came up, that working for a female CEO would be really incredible. Wanted to support a female CEO in building a super successful company. She's also a fellow immigrant, and so there's a lot of sort of in common there. And she was someone who had very complementary skill sets to mine. So I felt like it was a leader I could learn from too. So that was sort of box number one. That was sort of checked off, like the person I would be working for, feeling like there's a really good connection there. Then there's the company itself. And I'd been looking at Nextdoor from the sidelines. I always felt like it was a very interesting company and had been using it a little bit, but not sort of deeply. But, when I looked at it and really sort of sat down to think about what Nextdoor could be, it was pretty clear to me that it's just one of those platforms that has just massive opportunity. This is the optimist in me. Everyone is a neighbor, like globally. Everyone is a neighbor. So you're building for the global population, which is a scale, obviously, that's very exciting to think about. And it's similar scales from where I was my previous companies. And that excites me. Having the opportunity to work with a company that is truly and genuinely trying to make a positive difference too, and helping both people, neighbors, and businesses thrive. That purpose and that sort of ability to have like a meaningful impact was very intriguing to me as well.
Is there an example of something that you did or a partnership or some initiative that you guys have done that really encapsulates helping small business?
Actually, I'll mention two programs to you. One is a mix of neighbor and small business. The other is very small business focused. It's what we call the Neighborhood Faves program. What that is, it's a program that we created that really helps small businesses gain awareness in their neighborhoods. So we run a program where we encourage and motivate neighbors to vote for their favorite local businesses. And as neighbors are going through the voting process, etc., you will see lists getting created within various different categories in your local community. So if you're coming in, whether it's new to your community or you have already been part of your community for a while and you're looking for the list of businesses that neighbors that live around you trust, rely on, love, they will have favorite them. And then you have this list that becomes curated through neighbor votes, if you will. And the businesses that are getting faved will have the opportunity to attach a badge to their profile on Nextdoor. So it's a program that is, it's been 7 years. We're going on our 7th year. And this year we actually expanded it to the UK. And it's running live right now. So our wonderful UK neighbors are currently in the process of voting on their favorite local businesses.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we've just seen like a tremendous amount of support for small businesses coming out of it. And it's been truly wonderful to go out and have the opportunity to hand out neighborhood fave stickers to the small business owners who have earned the opportunity to become recognized that way, and seeing them proudly displaying that sticker in the window, and then seeing their customers noticing it, and coming in, like increasingly coming in, but also just recognizing, congratulating them on their accomplishment.
Yeah, right. Helps drive their business.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that.
Another program if I may, I'll highlight that's going on right now. That is, it has a tie into businesses, but really the emphasis and focus is on military families, supporting them as they make frequent moves. So we have a partnership going right now with the Blue Star families.
Yeah, I read an article about that. That sounds very impressive.
Yeah, and it's we're excited about it. One, because it's like here we have a group of people who are willing to give their all to protect our freedoms, and they are tasked with duties that require them to move on a regular basis. And as someone who just moved last year, it is not easy to get set up in a new community when you make that move. Now imagine doing that every 2 years, having to move to a new community, getting rid of stuff, getting new stuff, finding a home, finding a way to set your life up, finding a dog park, finding a dentist, all the stuff that it takes to set your life up. It's a lot. And it can be difficult to find friends, to find a new network, especially considering 70% of military families live off base. So knowing that, in the conversations that we had with the military families and Blue Star Family Organization, we realized that Nextdoor can really offer some really strong value here to particularly military families, but really to anyone that moves. But in this case, we build out a website that allows them to quickly go in and look at the local recommendations. So back to the neighborhood faves program that I just spoke about. So when you move to a new neighborhood, you can very quickly see what are the favorite stores, the grocery stores, the favorite restaurants, the favorite dentists, the favorite car wash. Go here, connect with these people, and then encouraging neighbors to give military families a warm welcome.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm proud and excited of both of those programs.
Those are great programs, and I think those really highlight the power of what Nextdoor can be and do in local neighborhoods. How do you kind of make those decisions? Do you make a lot of decisions by poring over data, or do you make a lot of decisions by this is the right thing to do because it fits with our values and our purpose and we're going to do it and hopefully it drives the business?
It's both. I would say the neighborhood favor program is more data-driven decision in that through the program, we are giving small businesses a greater chance of raising awareness in the local communities, helping them thrive. That creates a better likelihood of them coming onto a platform, creating identity, and then giving them the opportunity to grow their customer base through advertising on the platform, right? So it ties directly into a monetization opportunity while also helping them as an important neighbor holder on the platform. But it has a more clear through line, like into revenue, with a relatively short payback time, if you will, just for like business lingo speak. On programs like the Blue Star Family Organization, that is mostly led by the purpose, like the right things, because it is the right thing to do and it aligns fully with what we stand for, etc. But even that program has a line into the business side of the house, right, or the revenue side of the house, because again, like when they need to go and buy and sell new stuff, or sell their stuff and buy new items, right? Like that's part of the business. When they look at the local favorite businesses in the area, like that's another area of all of a sudden you have more engagement with the businesses, right? And then they log in and they become members on the platform, and obviously that helps drive the monetization engine too.
What's on your worry list? What keeps you up at night as you're building out Nextdoor?
The optimist in me try not to think about things as worries.
Okay, what are the opportunities that keep you up at night?
I really do try to reframe it that way, because there's
Yeah,
so much going on in the world. So if you start to think of things as worries, they can easily compound and, you know,
overwhelm you. Yeah,
whereas, the view that I take on it is I think a lot about what challenges and opportunities are facing our customers, so neighbors, businesses, etc., and how can we as a platform help them, like going back to the notion of like thrive as they're faced with these challenges and opportunities. Constantly thinking about where our customers are at, what are the dynamics in the world around them that are facing them, and then trying to bring that back into a positive energy around, okay, how can we help create a positive difference here, and driving some both revenue value, but certainly also great outcomes from a community perspective.
what is an unpopular but important decision that you've had to make?
My bias most certainly is to always do the right things for the right reasons, and that is focusing on making sure that we build a sustainable, healthy business that can last over the long run. And that sometimes requires decisions that you sacrifice short-term wins or gains for the benefit of longer-term sustained health. That can sometimes be a challenge when there's pressure and focus and push on creating revenue right here, right now,
Of course.
revenue in 2 to 3 years from now, as an example. So the decision to really increase our investment in building our ads platform, our own proprietary ads platform powered by our data, where we can truly connect inputs from advertisers to outcomes and optimize for those outcomes. That was a choice that otherwise could have been, hey, we are in GAM. GAM can certainly serve the business. So Google's Ad Manager can certainly serve the business.
Sure.
Focus on like an innovative ad format or something else that can drive a bump in revenue right here, right now. Whereas like that could have been one choice, right? But that would have been looking really good in the short term on the bottom line, but it doesn't scale well over time. And you can never optimize fully for outcomes.
It costs you more in the long run.
Totally does. So,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
making the bet to invest early on in our ads platform, it certainly has raised eyebrows by some, but having gone through this before and seeing the outcomes on the other side, it is, in my opinion, most definitely the right journey to be on.
Yeah.
Making that decision felt easy, even though it was not necessarily clear to everyone initially why it was important.
Who are some of Heidi's role models?
I wish I could sort of give you a name. I've just never really been one of those who have like a single person, neither like a single band or like a star or anything like that. I think it's maybe a little bit how I'm wired. I know you sort of read my profile. I describe myself as like a corporate athlete, but it's because I like a lot of disciplines and I tend to be good at a lot of different disciplines. But what that also means is like, what do I draw from? It's actually very related to that. I draw from a lot of different people from different industries. I don't see one person necessarily. I see a lot of different people that have either certain personality characteristics or have accomplished certain things that I think are really inspiring or I admire or want to some extent, like emulate somehow. And it's typically, people who have thought like really, really big about an opportunity to go after, whether it is curing a disease or building a new tech that hasn't been done before, down to, Steve Jobs and Apple.
You're motivated by people that take big swings.
Yeah, big swings. While also not forgetting like humanity. I mean, other folks that really inspire me are those who are so deeply committed to changing the world for good that they are willing to commit their whole selves to it. So, folks like Nelson Mandela come to mind, right? Like
Amazing.
that sort of deep time thinking and focus. I truly, truly admire that. And then I admire the discipline and focus that comes from a lot of the military leaders, like Admiral McRaven, etc., who, that like ability to sort of really dig deep and focus on training to improve yourself on a like regular basis, doing retros and committing and to yourself to a very high bar and constantly trying to find ways to raise that bar, and doing it with others. That inspires me too. So I draw from lots of different areas together, and somehow I make sense of it in my head all of a sudden, usually on a run.
Do you have a quote or a mantra that you go back to?
It's sort of a mix up of two. I might have mentioned it early on in our conversation, but do the right things for the right reasons and never give up.
Do the right things for the right reasons and never give up.
That's right.
That is the mantra for an empowering optimist with grit. That's the mantra right there. When you have to crack a problem, is there a process or a place or a method that you go through to get to a solution? Depending
on the problem, oftentimes if I have to think through something that is very complex, but it's related to unlocking opportunity for people, I find myself gravitating towards going out into my local community, watching their behaviors, watching their interactions, just observing like helps me better sort of appreciate and think through the complexity of humans, try to solve problems, and then taking that and going back to my teams and having some, big brainstorms and ideation sessions, like really helps me unlock some of the creativity and things. And when I have to sort of otherwise like sort through complex stuff in terms of driving to prioritization, that often gets unlocked the best when I am moving. So when I'm like being active, physically active, somehow that really helps my brain better separate the pieces and finding sort of ways to organize them into sequences. And that comes back down to prioritization. A little bit of solitude for that, but when my brain is active at the same time.
Yeah, that's the method to cut out all the noise.
That's right.
How would you describe, if you had to describe Heidi Andersen's business style in one word, what word would you use?
Heidi is leadership style is transformational, focused with a mix of servant leadership.
All right. Transformational with a qualifier. That's it. That's our show. So thank you. We went kind of a lot of different places, but it was very informative. A lot of great nuggets there.
And we went way back in time.
Yeah, it was great.
I had to think hard.
Soul and Science is a Mekanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, Tyler Nielsen, Emma Swanson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.